Welcome to the 21st century. Today we'll be talking about the 21st century and what might be coming in the future. In this video, I'm going to be going over my predictions for what's going to happen in the rest of the century. Full disclaimer, I am not a registered psychic. Actual events may vary. All predictions are speculative based on history, data, and the research of others. Links to the sources are in the description below. Now let's hop into it. There are four factors that have a large impact on the trajectory of countries. Population demographics and whether you have young, an old, or an aging population. Access to energy, which I highly recommend checking out Alfred Crosey's book, Children of the Sun, on this topic. It makes a very interesting case that human history can be viewed as a process of humans unlocking greater access to sunlight, stored energy. Next, we have food, which everybody needs. And finally, we have technology, which is a multiplier on all the above. There are four major events that are going to have a big impact on the rest of the century. First up, we have baby boomers retiring. 2022 is the year on average that baby boomers begin to retire. As many of us know, baby boomers have been, in most places, the biggest and most productive generation of our lifetimes. With them retiring, you're going to start to see economic slowdown, welfare systems become strained, and with a smaller labor pool, you'll see wages likely increase. Next, we have the Ukraine war, which has two massive implications from it. First, the obvious one, which is increase in natural gas and oil prices, which will lead to price increases in other sectors. The second impact we'll see from the war is a massive rise in food prices and shortage in some areas. This is because Russia is the world's largest wheat exporter, and they just invaded Ukraine, which is the fifth largest wheat exporter. To make things worse, there's currently a shortage in fertilizers. This is because Belarus and Russia are one of the major suppliers of potash in the world. Europe right now makes most of its fertilizer with the use of natural gas, which has been cut off from Russia. And China, seeing that there's going to be a shortage of fertilizer in the world, is now hoarding up its own personal supply of fertilizer. We're going to be seeing rises in food prices and shortage like we've never seen in our lifetimes before, especially in areas that rely on wheat from Russia and Ukraine. North America will probably be fine for the most part and see just massive food price increases. You'll see this coming into effect late this year and throughout all of next year. Next on the list, we have an economic recession. Many of the major world banks are now predicting that there will be a major recession within the year. This is due to the slowdown from the pandemic, aging demographics, poor government fiscal responsibilities, shaky economy even before all this happened, and you tend to see a recession every 10 years, and we're 4 years overdue. All right, now let's see how some of these factors are going to impact the regions around the world. Start first with Russia. Well, things are not looking good for Russia. First off, Russia has terrible demographics, one of the worst in the world. It has an aging population and doesn't have a younger population to replace the older, skilled labor of the older generation. On top of that, the Ukraine war and the sanctions placed on Russia have put its economy back years. The only thing Russia has going for it is lots of food and lots of energy. Although I predict a collapse of Russia within the next probably 10 years. Although we'll likely see it collapse and then reform quickly, as it has so often in its history. Next up is China. Things are all looking pretty bad for China as well. Like Russia, it has terrible demographics, mostly due to its one-child policy, strong preference for boy children, and most recently we discovered that China has probably been lying about their demographics, so they probably have a smaller population than we estimated. The population is likely to halve by 2050, China heavily relies on imports for both food and energy, making it very vulnerable to trade embargoes. Estimate that you'll probably see a slow collapse in China within the next 30 years of some sort. It's unclear kind of what kind of collapse this will be, whether it'll split up as it has so many times in history, or whether you'll just see a new regime within the CP take over. And it probably won't be a pretty collapse at that. Likely, I'd say China's going to get in a war in one of three places, either on Taiwan, either with or India, or even possibly with Russia. If it hits it at the time when Russia is collapsing, it may see an opportunity for a land grab. China knows its time is up and it's trying to prepare its population. This is why you see China restricting how many hours people can play video games a week to 2 hours, banning private schools, banning pop stars, etc., etc. On to Europe. Things are not looking great for Europe as well, fortunately. Got poor demographics, very low birth rates, low innovation, desperately lacks energy security. But with all that said, the next 10 years not going to be fun for Europe, but Europe will survive. The United States will prop Europe up. Now on to the United States. The century is looking good for the United States. It's got decent demographics. As throughout all of its history, it's had the two large oceans to protect it from rivals. It's got a very good relationship with its two main trading partners, Canada and Mexico. And it has largely energy self-sufficient now and very self-sufficient when it comes to food. Not much to slow America down except perhaps an eternal civil war. But besides that, you're likely to see America be the world's superpower for the remainder of the century. Now on to our wildcard category. But before that, I got three runners up for the wildcard position. First wildcard runner up is a South American union of some sort. Honestly, South America has pretty good demographics, has had lots of potential. Even in this century, South America has had lots of potential, which has been squandered by internal politics to a large degree. Next up, we got Turkey, or the Turkish Empire, perhaps. Turkey's got great demographics, got food, it's got access to energy nearby, strong central location between Europe, Asia. It's got a history of having an empire within the region, so it may try to reform that empire. The biggest thing I think that's going to be holding Turkey back is just the amount of conflict that's going to be likely happening in the region due to food scarcity. Turkey will really have to play their cards right in order to turn into a significant power. And final wild card runner-up is India. Again, India's got good demographics, has had lots of potential even in this century, has food secure, and is pretty close to the Middle East energy transit lanes. So it's got a good chance of getting securing energy for itself. And again, like Turkey and South America, I think it's going to be largely internal politics that hold India back from becoming a major player. Which leaves us with our actual wild card pick. And that is Kanzuk, an economic and political union between Canada, the UK, Australia, and New Zealand. All these countries have a shared culture and history. There's large support domestically in each country for this union. And with the world becoming a more scary place, I see this becoming a greater possibility. Kanzuk has middling to good demographics, strong food and energy base, getting protected by the seas, um, is strong connections with the United States. So I see Kanzuk being United States right-hand man for the remainder of the century. Now on to technology, and we've got some exciting things coming from the future. First thing we're going to look at is new materials. Every great age is defined by its materials, such as the Bronze Age, the Iron Age, or the Plastic Age. And some of the big candidates for probably what the next age will revolve around is either graphene, which if you don't know about it, is a material that can be made one cell thick. It's as hard as diamond and as strong as steel. There's lots of applications for it. Also conducts electricity. We also have aerogel, which is 99.8% air, extremely heat resistance, and has a bunch of different applications and alterations you can make to it. Has tons of applications as well. Next up, we have what I'm personally looking most excited to. In medicine, we're now getting close to extending life. That's right. If you check out Dr. St. Clair and the good work that his team and him are doing, they've been successfully able to age and de-age mice at will. They're now finished testing on mice, testing on apes, are now moving into human testing, which will come just at the perfect time when we start to see a population decline in the world, which will lead to even greater demand for these technologies. Next up, we have AI. That's right, we're finally getting AI that we've been promised for so long. Now, this will probably be a limited form of AI that will work alongside humans on very specific tasks. Around this period of time, we are going to start to see a need for ways to augment a low shortage of workers, and AI will help fit that bill. And finally, blimps. Yes, blimps. Now, hear me out. This is not just my steampunk fantasy. There's actually some practical implications of blimps. You probably won't see blimps replacing our supply chain anytime soon, but in specific regions, blimps will be very useful, especially ones that it's hard to get at by sea or very remote regions. Blimps will excel at. There will also be a lot of positions opens as baby boomers retire. And in general, most times in history, when you see a decline in the working population available, there's normally periods of prosperity, such as Europe after the Black Death had decimated a large portion of the population. You saw wages rise for workers, and it was an era of prosperity for the average worker. And then just in general, some of the technologies coming out are very exciting. There's lots of opportunities going forward in the future, especially if life expanding technology become available. You can see that actually helping us get through many of our major demographic problems going forward. So yeah, looks like a very exciting century to come ahead. Gonna be some pain, but ultimately things will turn out all right. Thanks for watching. Wish you all the best. God bless. Have a good one.